How you doing? This is Sean McVeigh with Sean's Outdoor Adventures. In this video, I'm going to talk about everything you need to get started in archery. There was somebody who just recently asked me to do a video on this. I'm going to talk about what you need to get started with a compound bow, as well as a recurve bow or traditional style bow such as this. Let's start with the compound. So an absolute necessity would be an arrow rest. There's all different kinds. This is a capture style. They make drop away rests. If you're buying the whole bow as a kit, you're often going to see a capture style rest like this. No real moving parts, so there's nothing to really fail other than to get worn out over time. This particular bow here, this is the Dragon X8 compound bow. This is a good bow for someone getting started in archery. It has a very long adjustable draw weight and draw length range, so you could get it for a 12-year-old and they could shoot it till they're 20 or beyond. Or you could, if you're not sure if you want to get into archery and stick with it, the price on this bow, you really almost can't beat it. $200 in the US. It's a little bit more for other countries because it costs more to ship there. There is a link for this in the description if this is something that interests you. Thank you if you do purchase through that link, because they do give a kickback to my channel to help support what I'm doing. But anyway, you're going to need a sight unless you want to shoot instinctively. 99.9% of people probably shoot with a sight when they're using a compound bow. The sling comes with it, as does the stabilizer. The sling is nice because you slide your hand in there. Then you don't grip the bow. You just relax your hand. When the bow goes off, you don't have to worry about holding on to it. So that helps you avoid the gripping aspect, gripping at the bow. So all this comes with this particular package. There's even a sight light in this in case you're shooting indoors and you can't see your pins real well. You're shooting in a ground blind in a hunting situation. This particular package does not come with a quiver, but if you're planning to hunt, you're going to want a quiver which just clips onto the side of the bow. You can pick up a quiver fairly inexpensively. And so you'll also want a peep sight and a D-loop. This particular bow comes with a peep sight installed and a D-loop, and these slide, and you can slide the peep sight to the location you need it and then slide them back in to keep it tight. So that's the basic of what you'll need for the bow itself. You're also going to need arrows. For a compound bow, I urge you to use carbon arrows. It's the best option in my opinion. This is a carbon arrow right here. When I was growing up in archery, there was no carbon arrows. It was the best product at the time was aluminum, which is what this is here. You can still get aluminum arrows. You can still shoot aluminum arrows. However, if you miss your target and hit something, these bend. Once one of these bends, it basically ruins its use. You could try to bend it back, but then you can get kinks in it and everything else. So you miss, you bend it, it's done, more or less. Don't ever try to shoot a wooden arrow from a compound bow. Compounds are just too much power and force. It can splinter a wooden arrow and go right through your hand. And when compound bows first started to come out, everybody was coming off of shooting a traditional bow like a recurve or longbow, and they were shooting their wooden arrows, and there was a lot of people who had arrows go through their hand. They do make fiberglass arrows. I do not recommend those. They're a cheap form of arrow. If you're looking online and you come across arrows and oh, that's a really cheap price, check the materials it's made of. If it's fiberglass, I just encourage you to overlook fiberglass and go with carbon. It's stronger, more durable, and I mean it's either going to break or not. If you miss your target, sometimes that happens. This isn't going to break quite like aluminum, or won't bend like aluminum. And you do want to inspect your arrow. If there's any gouges or nicks in it, you may want to take it out of use because it could compromise the integrity of the arrow. So you do need to get arrows. Another thing I would suggest you will need is a mechanical release. This is what most people use nowadays who are shooting with a compound bow. There's different types. There's ones that clip onto the D-loop. This one is a little hook. You don't even have to look. You can kind of feel the D-loop and hook it on, and then this goes around, straps around your wrist, and you pull back. You're not pulling back with your fingers. Those of you who have arthritis, I do suggest a wrist strap style release because you don't have to grab anything. All the weight of the pulling is on your wrist, and then you just are pulling the trigger when you're anchored in at full draw. There are other styles such as a thumb triggered release. This clips on. You pull back with your fingers. Again, if you have arthritis, this could start to bother you after a while. You also have the potential of this slipping out of your hand, damaging or ruining your bow. But these are very nice if you're okay with some of those risks. You anchor in, pull that. There's also hinge style releases. This is more for usually for more advanced archery because it's easy to misfire the bow with a hinge style release if you don't do everything just right. You have to pull it back with all the basic tension on the thumb side, or where your thumb side is, so that it doesn't disengage. And then once you're at full draw, you're rotating it, and that causes it to disengage. Another thing you're going to need, I almost forgot to mention, is field points. If you're practicing, some arrows will come with them, some will not. Most people use 100 grain points. That's most people, not everyone. Okay, so that's basically what you're going to need for compound archery. For recurve archery, let's talk about that. You're going to need obviously a bow. This is a 3-piece bow. The limbs come off. One of the nice things about this is not only can it pack down for, transportation, but you can also get different limbs. Let's say when you're getting started, you'll want to go with a limb that is low poundage so you can develop good form. And then as you strengthen your muscles, you could, instead of having to buy a whole new bow, you just buy a new set of limbs the next set up, weight-wise. The limbs on this bow are 35 pounds, and that's usually rated off of a 28-inch draw length. I am about a 32-inch draw length, so by the time I reach full draw with this bow, it's about 50 pounds, or close to that, high 40s. And because the farther back you pull one of these types of bows, the more weight you're going to hold. With a compound bow, there's what's called let-off. You might be pulling 70 pounds, but once you reach full draw, you might only be holding 10 or 20 pounds, depending on the amount of let-off. And with the wheels and the way this is all designed, it stores a lot of energy, and that's why those bows are so fast. Like this bow here, at its longest draw length and peak weight, I shot it through the chronograph. It was 320 feet per second. A bow like this, you might shoot 190 feet per second. So dramatic difference there. Now, a lot of people shoot off of the shelf, so they'll get like a felt type lining on this area here and put the arrow right on there. The arrows that you're going to want for a recurve style bow are going to be feathered fletches. Like these are actual synthetic feathers. So this is an aluminum arrow with synthetic feathers. This is a carbon arrow with synthetic feathers. And then here's a wooden arrow with feathers. So no matter what material arrow you're using, you're going to want feathers as opposed to plastic veins, such as what you'll typically find on a carbon arrow for a compound setup. I know some other things. Well, I also mentioned this particular bow. This is a Samick Sage. There is a hole for an arrow rest, so a plunger can be screwed through, and there is a spot over here for a sight to be mounted and for a stabilizer to be screwed in. So if you wanted to use those types of equipment on this type of recurve, you can. That's one thing to look for. If you're looking online and you see a cheap bow, check to see if it has the ability to take these adapter pieces, such as a sight, a rest. And if you don't want to use any of that and you just want to go straight traditional, well then fine. But if you want those options, make sure it has them. The Samick Sage is a really good option. It's a good price and a nice bow, and that's why I have one right here. That's what you'll need for the bow. For shooting it, you'll either want a finger tab, which is a 3-finger piece that protects your fingers when you're drawing, or a finger tab. This is a 3-finger glove. I don't know if I just said finger tab, but this is a finger tab. So this style here is 1 finger above, 2 below. So when you knock an arrow on the string, which I'm not going to pull back, but I will knock the arrows so you can see. So the knock, and the odd color fletch always faces directly away from the bow. You'll want this style, 1 finger above the knock and 2 below, and then you'll draw back to your anchor point. This style tab is 3 fingers below, so you'll put all 3 fingers below like this and pull back to your anchor point. It's just a personal preference. You might want to play around with both. You can do 3 fingers under with this style tab as well, even though it's designed slightly different. So this one would be a little bit more universal, and it would allow you to do either one you wanted for finger tab. One last thing you're going to need with a recurve style bow, or strongly recommend, is a stringer. This hooks on to the ends of the bow here, and you step on it and it flexes the bow and it allows you to take the string off. You're going to want to do that every time you're finished using a recurve bow. You don't want to leave a recurve bow strung because it weakens the limbs over time. I also recommend an arm guard. Anybody who's new at archery, you're likely to hit your arm with the string when you release it. Having an arm guard is really going to help protect your arm and save you from bruises and injury. So that's it. That's a basic rundown of everything you're going to need to get into archery. I have a lot of beginners follow my channel, and someone just recently asked me who's looking to get into archery. So this is for all those out there who are just thinking about getting into the sport of archery. I will have a link for this type of a bow in the description section, as well as this. If you ever decide to buy any of these types of bows or any of this type of equipment, and you use those links, I just want to say thank you, because it does help my channel in some small way with the kickbacks that they give me when those links are used. Thanks again so much for tuning in. My name is Sean McVeigh. This is Sean's Outdoor Adventures. Until next time, take care and God bless.